One computer starts up, the desktop appears, and nothing is wrong with it. Elsewhere, other people were pressing the same power button and watching startup stop. Players had installed an optional update for the space game EVE Online and restarted their PCs. And on a bounded set of older Windows systems, some machines would not start. That update had reached outside its own folder and deleted the small configuration file those systems read at startup. CCP's own testing had passed it. CCP, the studio behind EVE Online, was rolling out an expansion called Trinity, and with it, a major graphics overhaul. By CCP's own clock, Trinity reached production at 4 minutes past 10 at night, GMT, on the 5th of December 2007. The trouble was confined to one specific path through that rollout, the optional upgrade that took a player from the game's classic graphics content to the new premium set. CCP scoped the danger tightly. The company said it lived on that upgrade path on Windows XP and older, and nowhere else. Not Vista, not Mac, not Linux, and not the machines that installed the full premium package outright. Shacknews ran the story before 8 the next morning GMT, working from CCP's own forum post. The register followed at 2 minutes to 12 that same morning, under a headline CCP would not have chosen. EVE Online update kills Windows PCs. The line under it was blunter: don't touch the Trinity update. CCP's public word, when it came, was an instruction. A staff member named Pete Thacker posted it to the official forum, and it opened with a sentence that inverts the oldest advice in computing. Please do not reboot your computer, Thacker wrote, until you have read this. That is the entire incident in one sentence. The post closed with an apology. We apologize for this, he wrote, and are working as best we can to find a solution. CCP's own explanation of how an installer for a graphics pack ended up with that reach starts with pressure. The new content was large. CCP put the premium set at 1.43 gigabytes, squeezed to about 866 megabytes, and then to 584 megabytes with the new approach. And getting that to players efficiently mattered. Late in the process, CCP moved to a different third-party installer technology to handle the job. CCP's chronology is precise. The program that built the installer entered source control in the middle of the afternoon GMT on the 30th of November, and the updater it produced was on Singularity, the public test server, by the 2nd of December. This was not code that had skipped review, and it was not code nobody had run. The bug lived in the gap between two operations. When the installer put files down, it placed them correctly inside the game's own folder, right where they belonged. But when it later went to delete a particular file, it used only the file's bare name without its full location. And there was an old quirk waiting for exactly that mistake. CCP said the name went back to 2001 on its servers and 2002 in the game itself, from the earliest days of EVE. On XP-era systems, deleting by bare name reached past the harmless game file. It resolved to the root of the drive, and there it matched and deleted the small startup file that XP-era Windows relied on to know how to boot, a file called Boot.ini. The install step knew the full path. The delete step used only the name, and the name was one EVE had been carrying for 6 years, matching a file the operating system kept where any program could reach it. It took all three. Nobody outside the company had that explanation yet. The community went and got it anyway. By the accounts posted at the time, players pasted their own installation logs into forums and started reconstructing the cause within hours, well before CCP's diagnosis was public. What they could not do was agree. Inside the first day, 4 different people named 4 different causes: an errant extra backslash, a missing punctuation mark, a bad wildcard search, a dropped folder path. No 2 of them agreed, and only 1 was close. The mechanism was reconstructed in public incorrectly several times over, while the machines were still down. Back at CCP, by the company's own account, one man had run the upgrade on his own machine and rebooted it, and everything worked. That desktop belonged to Erlander Thorsteinsson, who had been running EVE's software group all that year. CCP's explanation is that on the layouts common in its own test estate, Windows sat on the first partition of the drive, and that on that layout, the system could repair the deletion by itself on the next start. The machines most likely to shrug this off were the ones set up the way CCP's own machines were set up. The safety check and the blind spot were the same thing. CCP was not the only one saying so. Other players said the same from their own desks. A poster called Zycarax wrote that he had installed Trinity, learned afterward that the file was gone, and found his computer started normally regardless. Another, posting as James, said he had upgraded 2 XP machines early and neither had any trouble. Other people had the opposite morning. On the MMORPG forums, a player posting as Shohadaku described his own side of it. It was a very tiny fix, he wrote. If you never tried to restart the machine, but if you did, in his words, you were foobar. Another, posting as Barbarian, said he turned his computer on, could not get past startup, and wrote that he owned a vendor-built machine which had shipped without any operating system disks at all. He said he had to ask the manufacturer to mail them to him. 6 days in, a bystander on an unrelated gaming forum summed the whole thing up without meaning to. It's so strange, wrote a poster called Tartarus Mark II, that some systems are affected and some aren't, even though they appear to be identical. He had no stake in it at all. CCP pulled the faulty updater at about 20 to 4 in the morning GMT on the 6th of December, and had the program that built it corrected by 8 minutes past 6. CCP's account is that nothing but the startup file was touched. No hardware failure, no lost game data. A machine that lost the file could be brought back once the file was restored, if you had the means to restore it. CCP said it called developers back in overnight and opened extra routes for players to reach help by phone and through outside technical support. On the 6th, a commenter on the register described the official complaints thread as 18 pages long and growing almost as fast as you can read it. That measures a thread, not a number of machines. CCP logged 170 support petitions and 45 phone calls, 215 contacts in all, and put the number of people adversely affected at fewer than that. Either way, it is a count of times someone reached out, not of every machine affected. Writing on the 13th of December for the MMO site, Massively, Matt Warner argued that even that understated things because an unknown number of people repaired their own machines and never contacted anybody. He was right, and then he put a number on it that had nothing underneath it. How many machines failed to start that week was never counted. A programmer, blogging the day it happened, wrote about why this felt different from an ordinary game bug. It was a sacred contract, he wrote, that games would stay out of system space. There is no conceivable reason, he went on, for the game installer to even touch the Boot.ini file. CCP then published a detailed postmortem, dated the 11th of December 2007. It laid out what went wrong: a code review that missed the flaw, installer wording that was hard to read, long stretches of work, and too little variation in the hardware and operating systems it tested on. CCP said it would widen that range and review old file names that could collide with Windows files and change them where necessary. Thorsteinson, the man whose own machine had come through fine, gave his reason for publishing any of it, and it came from his previous work. He had worked in the antivirus industry and wrote that that experience, along with his years following CCP, had taught him to appreciate the need for full disclosure when things don't go according to plan. An excuse was available to him, and it was being offered at volume. Across Slashdot in the register, commenters were arguing that the real culprit was Windows. One put it as a matter of duty. It is the operating system developer's responsibility, he wrote, to make sure that it cannot be broken without admin, system, or root access. Another called it amazingly stupid that one missing file could do that much. He put the question into the postmortem himself. In his own words, why doesn't Windows protect its system startup files? That's a good question, he wrote, one that I've asked myself in these last few days and wish I knew the answer. But of course, he went on, I'm not going to blame Microsoft for our mistake. He wrote the excuse into his own document, and then he refused it. The version of this story that gets passed around is that CCP shipped an update it had never tested. It was tested. By CCP's own account, the testing ran on the layout that could repair itself. So it told the truth about those machines, and nothing whatsoever about anyone else's. Then Eve did what Eve does. Within about a day of the machines going down, somebody opened a thread on the official forums. The title in full, Boot.ini jokes. Funny cartoons, things to help the pain it caused. Over on the register, a commenter landed the joke everyone else was circling. He wrote about the reflex every technical person has. Tell the caller to turn it off and on again, and noted that in this case, it might not work so well. 5 years later, to the day, the man whose own machine had booted fine posted a new thread on the Eve forums. Erlendur Thorsteinson titled it, The Boot.inis, We Found Them. He had found one of the missing files, he wrote, and it was delicious. And he linked a photograph of a cake. Then, jokes aside, it is in hindsight, he wrote, one of the more hilarious bugs in the gaming industry. I hope you have all recovered and forgive us.